Hey everyone, just want you to go out there and subscribe to Raze Chaos. Remember, when you do, it'll be super effective.
And welcome back, everybody. My name is Raze Chaos. You've made it back to my channel, and it is New Comic Book Day. You know it's my favorite day of the week. And today I have I know I say I've got a special episode for you usually, but this is a very, very special episode. Is it special because it's another cover with Wolverine on it? No. In fact, this is the third cover I've shown off that has Wolverine. You knew it was coming. You know, they just can't. It's like, look at this cover. It's got Cyclops on it. It's got Iceman up at the top. And then it's got Wolverine down the front. Could they have used a different person on the cover? Perhaps, maybe even Cyclops, who, yeah, this issue marks the first time he was ever shown in that costume. The costume that you know from the X-Men animated series. Why, Funko? You had the opportunity. You didn't take it. Yeah, I know, I'm putting you down. So yeah, this actually, X-Men #1 from 1991, I believe, is a very, very crucial, pivotal. This is one of the most important comics of all time. And there is a lot to talk about with this one. And yeah, there's so much to talk about that Raze has done something he has never done before. There are so many things to talk about with this guy that Raze printed out a little thing so he wouldn't miss any of his bullet points. This never happens. But yeah, this came out in August '91, and it was a big deal. I remember when this came out. They were talking about a brand new X-Men #1. That had never happened. That hadn't happened in who knows how long. It hadn't happened since Uncanny X-Men #1. And boom. I mean, yeah, you had some miniseries, but you didn't have an ongoing series. And this was X-Men #1. So that immediately got people ready, and yeah, this is one we can't miss. Let me make sure I've got this. Another bit about this was actually the return to form, bringing the original X-Men, being Cyclops, Iceman, Jean Grey, Angel, Warren Worthington III, and Beast back into the fold. I mean, you've had them come and go individually, but now you had the whole team inside this, which made the team humongous. And therefore, they split the team in half, starting in this issue. You had the X-Men Blue team and you had the X-Men Gold team. And, you know, they separated it. It didn't last long. And there's a reason for that, and I'll get into that in a bit. So yeah, this was the first appearance of the Blue and Gold team for the X-Men. It was also the first appearance of the Acolytes, which were Magneto's followers, I guess you say. This issue kind of marked the first time you saw like a character named Fabian Cortez, to be specific. And these were zealots. These were these were the diehard Magneto fans. Up until this issue, you had an evolution with Magneto, where Magneto, he went from the comic book supervillain as always to moving into a more sympathetic villain, to almost an anti-hero at one point, even into the point where he actually joins the X-Men, and eventually he becomes the headmaster of the junior version of the X-Men, which would at that point would have been the New Mutants. So Magneto had almost completely shifted. And this issue comes out, none of that. He is back. He is a zealot. He is a mutants are better than humans, and we need to live separately from them. And he had a whole cast of acolytes that that followed him and worshipped him as though he was the new Messiah, and it absolutely worked. And that started in this issue too. A lot of characters had come out with new costumes. Let me think. Actually, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Storm, and Rogue all debuted new costumes in this issue, and they ended up becoming so iconic because those are the looks that you see if you watch the X-Men animated series from the 90s, from the late 90s. That's the look that they went with. Those are the X-Men costumes that they used for that, because Lord knows they've had several. So let me see if I made sure I got all this so far. Yeah, we got that. Yeah, basically Marvel tried copying everything that came, or with the X-Men, they tried to copy everything that started with this issue. The thing was, the creative team on this was Chris Claremont and Jim Lee. Jim Lee coming on the X-Men, I believe this was his debut. Claremont had been working on the X-Men for 14 years. He had been writing Uncanny X-Men for 14 years. Then you had the new guy, Jim Lee, come popping on here. And they did this initial story, combining the old and the new, which gelled just perfectly. The big problem with that is if you've got somebody that's been writing these characters for 14 years, he's going to want to go in new and different directions. He's done it. He wants to do different. He wants to, I've already done all this. Let me keep exploring. The problem with Jim Lee is, let's bring it back to basics. And Chris Claremont's like, I've done that. And basically, when the decision was made, when Marvel made the decision, they followed the money. And part of the reason why this issue is such a big deal, this is the biggest selling single comic book issue of all time. And I do mean of all time. This actually still holds the record, the Guinness Book of World Records. This holds the title for the most sales of a single issue of a comic book of all time. This ranks in the 8 million category. Yeah, there's really not anything that comes close to this. Part of the reason for that is that it was released in 5 covers. You had 4 interlocking covers, which made a much bigger Jim Lee picture. They all fit together. It was all the same issue, just 4 different covers. And then you had the 5th, which was a full-on wraparound fold-out that had the entire picture that you could get. All 5 of these came out at the same time, and they sold like crazy. The comic books really hadn't done anything quite that bold at that point, and it led to a trend of variant covers, which I won't say is completely dead, because I know it still happens, but at this time it was almost impossible to get any comic book that didn't have a variant cover, all because of this one. They did a variant cover. It broke records. It became the best-selling comic book of all time. Everybody else, DC, Dark Horse, everybody wanted a piece of that. And so much so that it flooded the market and nearly killed the entire comic book industry. because it went all the way to 94, where you're still feeling it because of the death of Superman. And again, this one showed up. You had big events happening. You had Batman Nightfall with Batman getting his back broken, being replaced. You had you had Superman being killed, of all things. All this stuff, all these major events, just like pushing to be edgy and be out there, and variant covers galore, and everybody had to get them all because every one of them was going to go up exponentially in value, and it was going to, you know, you were going to be able to retire on it. Everybody thought this, and so everybody bought as many as they could. And you know, just think about that, selling 8.1 million copies of something. Comic book publishers do not publish 8.1 million copies of any single issue. They don't. You're lucky to get a couple 100,000, and that would be the higher end titles that they know are going to go. And even then, it almost never clears 100,000 copies. It just doesn't happen. But in this case, the speculation was there, and the comic book industry met that demand because everybody wanted it. They were going to keep printing them. And what happens when everybody has the same thing? It's not worth anything. And bam, that's why it was part of the big boom that happened, which really strengthened the comic book industry, and then almost nearly killed it all at the same time. And this issue actually marks the start of it. A lot of people think that the death of Superman is what marked the start of that. It was this one. It came a little bit earlier. So I actually had, I wasn't immune to it. I had all 5 issues, and I was just really excited. It was so cool. I could like put them all together and look at them. And then I had 5 issues of the same comic. And I think that's where it hit me. And I was just like, what's the point of spending full price on something that just has a different cover? Especially when they've got this one that has the wraparound cover. I'd get them all. Yeah, you saw a little change in the way I collected at that point. Let me make sure I got my little plot points here that I wanted to hit. Yeah, I think I pretty much covered it all. The only thing I'll go back to is the whole, I was wrong. Chris Claremont had a 16-year run on the Uncanny X-Men. And again, that was why basically after the storyline he left, Jim Lee took over. The complete reigns. I mean, they were working together at the very beginning, and then Chris Claremont, when he realized they were going to follow Jim Lee's direction and not his, decided to leave after 16 years of writing the X-Men. So that happened, and the joke was on them because, again, this was part of a big milestone in comics, several milestones, in fact. One of the things about it, like I said, this issue sold $8.1 million. And a lot of it, I mean, even if you want to give the credit to Chris Claremont in his long run, which he does deserve some of the credit, people didn't buy multiple issues of the same story. They bought multiple issues with different covers, and that lands down on Jim Lee. And so Jim Lee goes back to Marvel, and he's like, look, my artwork has kind of made this the best-selling comic book of all time. He was like, I should get, shouldn't I get like a little kickback or something? Shouldn't you pay me a little bit more? And Marvel just flat out said, it's not selling because of your artwork. It's selling because the X-Men is our most popular property. and it was at the time, and was growing in popularity as this happened. And this was something several people were told. I think I mentioned this again with Spider-Man and the Spider-Man issue 300 and Todd McFarlane, where the issue sold like crazy, and everybody wanted it. This obviously that's the case here, and the artist is saying, "Hey, I gave you this thing that's like selling better than anything ever." He's like, "Shouldn't I get a little bit more money on this? Shouldn't you cut me in on this? Give me a kickback, whatever?" And the company said, "No, these are our characters. We're the ones that made it popular, not you." And yes, this was another factor that had Jim Lee move and help create Image Comics. That, again, another thing stemming from this issue. It's really, like I said, it's really a big deal. Of course, Jim Lee's now like the editor-in-chief or the president of DC now, so yeah. If you don't spot talent when it's right, when it's already working for you, you never know what's going to happen. But yeah, so that's part of the reason why I made the comment of Cyclops being on the cover. You could have had like a nice little laser beam going on right there. This is only one of the 4 covers that connected. I kind of wonder, since they did waste the opportunity and put another Wolverine on here, if they're not going to release 3 more of these to coincide. That would actually, that would be cool and scary at the same time. Because you know what happened with the variant cover explosion and how it almost hurt. Funko doesn't need anything to help hurt them at this point. But yeah, they went, instead of going with Cyclops, who was very prominent, dead center. You're seeing more of Cyclops than you are of Wolverine on here. But they've got him in the pose with the claws out, and yeah, I mean, it's a good cover. It's obviously a very important cover, and these are just the kinds of covers that I absolutely love, though very few that are going to be so much that I actually need a little piece of paper to remind me what I need to talk about in this. you know, Raze goes long-winded. But yeah, I've kind of ranted on about this thing. It's a great issue. It's a great cover. Even though I would have done differently with this. I would actually like it if they did make all 4 covers. But at the same time, I also kind of dread that. The only thing that gives me solace is that I know what one of the people would be on the cover of. One, because one's just Magneto. That would be cool. And since I don't collect the regular Marvel Funko Pops, that would be really cool to have a Magneto. I keep getting distracted every time I look at this thing. But I am going to wish you a very happy new comic book day. Hope you went and got something really cool to check out. And I know I did. I have a full-on playlist of all my comic book cover videos that happen on Wednesday, which I call New Comic Book Day because it is New Comic Book Day. And click like on this video if you've enjoyed it. Let me know if you were old enough to have been part of this craze. Did you pick these issues up? Do you still have them? That's the real question, because I don't have mine. Sorry. Yeah, just talk to me in the comments about this very, very milestone issue. Let me know if you agree that Cyclops should have been on the cover, been the figure for this one, and not Wolverine. I know there's a lot of Wolverine fans, but also never forget that life is full of odd moments, And you never know when you're going to be defined.